our lives. And so we are each the hero of our journey. And to me, you know, that's why we have to have movies that have black women as the lead and black men as the lead, and TV shows that bring humanity to formerly incarcerated folks. But it's also why we have to remind people that they matter when it comes to voting, because you can be the hero of the journey of your community. You can be the change maker in the world around you. And for me, that's why I've been spending the last couple of years really trying not to be the Kerry Washington who drops in and says, vote for this person. Because I did a lot of that in the beginning. And I would be in communities and you would get the sense that people would say like, well, I don't know if you really care about us. You come here every 4 years for so-and-so candidate. And I started to think, oh, I have to be pouring my energy into communities rather than into candidates. And so I support candidates, I do, but most of our focus now is supporting grassroots communities all over this country, people who are doing the work to let people know that they matter, that one candidate is not the solution, you are the solution. That's why even though Shirley Chisholm didn't get the nomination, you still vote. Because even though what a hero, but no candidate is perfect.
Right.
We got to stop waiting for these heroes to come in and swoop in and save the day. We are the heroes. And we do that by voting, by showing up. It's not about a perfect candidate. It's about doing the work to show up, to be the hero ourselves.
Well, we certainly thank you for kicking off this convention.
Thank you for having me.
And we thank you for giving us, did she not drop some pearls of wisdom on us? And we most of all thank you for being Kerry Washington. Give her a big hand.
Thank you.
Kerry Washington. 1, 2. All right, let's get going. Shh. The fingers of God. Jesse Jackson Jr., the fingers of God. Give my little brother Jesse a big hand. One of the central points, and let me tell you, we're going to do a panel, then I'm going to have the Secretary of Veterans Affairs, because a lot of us really need to know about our rights and what they're cheating veterans, then the Secretary of Transportation. So, I mean, this is a convention of content, so we can go back and organize with information. And we're going to resolve some things that we're going to get done. Is that not right? People didn't come from all over the country to hear people just give slogans. We want some real concrete things. But one of the things, let's settle down. If you just come in, you miss Kerry Washington, that's a scandal. One of the signature efforts of National Action Network is that we fight for criminal justice reform, whether it is police brutality, whether it is racial violence, and we fight for laws. And in some state level and local level, we won some. Federally, we still have not got what we wanted, but we're going to stay in there until we do. But one of the other things we do is I do not believe that you ought to engage with families and then forget them when the cameras leave. One of the things that is most upsetting to me is when I see people that are all over families, and when the TV truck leaves, they leave right behind the truck. I stay with our families personally, call them on holidays, ask them if they need things. Not because they need charity, but it costs money to go to your rallies. Y'all want folk at a rally and don't offer them a Metro card to get there. I believe that if a family can bear their pain and stand up with us, as painful as it is, we need to stand with those families as long as we can. So let me bring out some of the families that we're going to start this panel on criminal justice, social justice. The mother of Eric Garner, Gwen Carr.
Okay, I'm not changing battery. I'm good.
Come on, Gwen Carr, Gwen Carr. The nation was shocked when we saw the outright lynching and killing of her son. But I want you to know that Gwen Carr kept fighting, and there is now a law in the state of New York against chokeholds. Many of us were stunned and shocked in a town that many of us had not heard of, Brunswick, Georgia, when they killed a young man and tried to act like maybe he was trying to rob something. And when we went down to Georgia and met this family, I met a Shiro, a strong, faith-based woman that took no nonsense. She sat in that courtroom every day. And let me tell you something, it took a lot in Brunswick, Georgia, to get killers indicted. If you ever been to Brunswick, I went downtown, I thought I was on the set of Gone with the Wind. But this woman fought, they indicted her son's killers, and then she said, no, I want the feds to indict them too. They've been double indicted and convicted. And that's because this mother would not cut a deal. She would not sell out her son. Give a hand to the mother of Ahmaud Arbery, Wanda Cooper Jones. Botham John, when we look at what happens in Texas and we look at the fight for justice for Botham, what has kept his name and soul alive has been the president of the Botham John Foundation, his sister, Alicia Finley. Give Alicia a big hand.
Hey, Jeff, since I can't see him from where I am right now, with the clear come, I'm going to be off your country.
All right, she's coming back. A brother beloved that from day one was on the phone with me and all the way through. We loved and stood with each other. He became such an activist that they started calling him at the trial Lil Al. And he has taken very seriously fighting for justice for his brother. May we welcome to Nan, one of our own, the brother of George Floyd, Philonise Floyd. And the preacher of the family, I call him preacher because he can rile them up. And he comes out rallies, he's been there. He's an activist extraordinaire in his own right. The other brother of this convention, he had more than one. Where is he at? Tyre Floyd. Come on, Tyre. Sit there next to Philonis. Philonis, you see, Terrace, he went shopping for a new suit. He didn't bring us. I didn't see that suit before. Oh, man, Steve. Oh, you hanging out with Steve Harvey while we marching, huh? I thought we was family up in here. I call her the one that started this whole wave of a movement. If Rosa Parks represented the 50s, there's one strong black woman that put us all on her back and demanded justice, and others that came behind her never forgot her stand. She became the template of justice in the 21st century. Let us welcome that mother extraordinaire because she has represented that. The mother of Trayvon Martin, Sabrina Fulton. Many of us remember the story of Amir Locke and the absolute ruthless and unpardonable abuse that led to his demise. But he had a strong father and a strong soldier, and he's with us with the other families today. Come on, Buddy McLean. Come on up, Buddy. Come on, we can do better than that. And my last two that I want to bring out together is some that
Jeff, I'm changing batteries.
I really can't describe the strength they've shown and the class they've shown and the dignity they've shown, even with the fresh wounds that are still inflicted upon them. What happened to their son and videoed all over the world, to where even the President of the United States had to pause during his State of the Union address to address this. And I've gotten to know them. The cameras are not there as they were, but we're going to be there. And when these cops go on trial, we're going to be there. Are we not National Action Network? Because that could have been our son. That could have been our brother. To beat him like that, to literally beat him to death. And every time I talk to his mother, how you doing? She said, I'm having a good day or I'm having a bad day. I wanted her to be in New York with her husband to try to give her the good day of knowing that all of us, hundreds around the country, are with her. Let us bring to the stage the mother and father of Tyre Nichols, Rovon Wells and Rodney Wells. To guide us in this is a brother that I met many years ago. A guy called me from state of Florida. Y'all, I got to recognize two people in the audience introducing him. The Queen Mother of Civil Rights. She might have a title in NAACP, but she's the Queen Mother of everybody. Give a hand. Hazel Duke's in the house. Stand up, Sister Shabazz. This is the daughter of Dr. Betty Shabazz and Malcolm X. I got a call maybe 17, 18 years ago from an attorney in Florida who said that they had killed a young man in boot camp. And he wanted me to come down. Students were marching in Tallahassee. And he wanted me to come down and help to bring some national light to that cause. I didn't know the lawyer. I didn't know the case. But he convinced me on the phone that he was telling me something that we should get involved with. I knew his pastor, Reverend R.B. Holmes, who's with us today. He's going to be honored at our ministers' luncheon on Friday. And if you did not, somebody said they didn't know about the ministers' luncheon, maybe you ain't a minister. Always amazes me, folk be, y'all don't know, I can read lips up here. I hear everything y'all saying. I watch folk. I've been, you know, I was a boy preacher. I've been watching folk a long time. I know folk that wait, come church late so they can stroll down the aisle like it's a fashion show. You know what time these rallies start. This brother has risen, but his attitude, his humility has not risen. He has the same brother that I knew 17 years ago. It was this brother that made this nation stop and know about Trayvon and know about all the cases since then. We have had one brother that has been there, whether it was a known case or not known, he made it known. He's been tenacious. He's been an example. And you know, you get haters when you get known. A lot of folk speak only out of jealousy. They're going to find something wrong. Half y'all in here hate me, just come to hope nobody was here. And I make room for my haters because they make me better. You know, I get up 4 o'clock every morning to work out. And I have one goal in mind. Hazel, every night I go to sleep, I have one goal in mind. That about 4:15 in the morning, I get out, y'all, some of y'all watch, I do live Instagram. The reason I do that is I want every bigot and racist and hater to say, damn, he's up again. Forgive me for saying damn, Reverend Richardson. I bring you the champion of 21st century law and order and civil rights, the Attorney General of Black America, Attorney Benjamin Crump.
Brothers and sisters, before we begin this important session, I have to just say a word about my mentor my hero, and many times my co-counsel. You know, as we fight in the court of law and the court of public opinion together, there has never been a more engaging figure to come and give the proper respects when someone like the members of this panel and many others over the last 17 years have been taken from this earth far too soon and unjustly. If you are fortunate enough for his schedule to allow for him to come and give final respects to your loved one, I tell you, Kendrick Meeks, I am always amazed and riveted when Reverend Al gives these eulogies in the most difficult of circumstances. Not only does he properly pay respect to the lost loved ones, he gives us a call to action, and he leaves us with a thought that we never thought of. The great jurist Oliver Wendell Holmes said, once a new idea stretches the dimension of the mind, it never regains its former dimension. Go back and look at the eulogy of George Floyd, the eulogy of Tyre Nichols, the eulogy of Amir Locke, and you will see Reverend Al, he preached the word, but he always stretches our mind a little bit. So I just wanted to tell my mentor, thank you for stretching my mind to be a better lawyer, a better freedom fighter for our people. I love you. Greg, you gonna tell them what our mission is from IFO, what you said in Richmond? Hey, and then finally, we get to this here, you have to give people their flowers. And we got to give Reverend Al Sharpton his flowers. We got to give it to him. Reverend Holmes, whether he's in the White House or he on MSNBC, he always keep it real. Daisy, he preached the funeral of a brother from Kenya, Ivo Otieno. Y'all saw the video. It reminded you a lot of George Floyd, where this brother was having a mental health crisis, face down, handcuffs, shackled with leg irons, and 7 police officers and 3 security guards suffocated him to death for 12 minutes. Well, Chairman Richardson, Reverend Al said, you know, they like, why Al Sharpton coming here? Is he coming to criticize the governor of Virginia? Is he coming to cause trouble? Is he coming to be an outside agitator? And Reverend Al said this at the end of the eulogy, Reverend Holmes. He said, I'm coming here to fulfill my mission in life. And that mission is, he talked about when he was a little boy, Ashley, and he was in the hood in New York, and they had roaches. And he said he would come in the kitchen and he would see the roaches. He'd run and tell his sister about the roaches. And she said, shut up, Al, we ain't got no roaches. And so he said, no, come, I'm going to show you. And he said he would come in and he would turn on the kitchen light and the roaches would scatter. And she said, see, Al, I told you we ain't got no roaches. He said, this happened about 2 or 3 times. And then he said, I figured this out. When you come and bring light, the roaches scatter. And so Reverend told, and you were there, Chairman, he said, so I came to Richmond to continue on my life's mission to partner with Ben Crump as being professional roach chasers all across the United States of America. So thank you, Reverend Al, for showing us how to be professional roach chasers, all of us. without further ado, I am honored, as we do every time at the National Action Network Convention, to have families who Reverend Al and the National Action Network have made an indelible mark on their life as they're dealing with tragedy. And they come to share with you how they turned their pain into purpose so it could hopefully inspire you to do whatever you can do. I mean, they are not making excuses for the tragedy. A lot of us don't have no excuses and ain't doing nothing. So we can take an example for these kings and queens of how to turn this pain into purpose. And so they're going to answer 2 questions for you because we know time is of the essence. And they're going to talk about what tragedy occurred in their life to completely turn their life upside down. And they're going to talk about what change they are trying to enact to define the legacy of their loved one. I never forget what Sabrina Fulton said after her 17-year-old son Trayvon was killed and the jury exonerated the killer of her unarmed son after he was shot in the heart. She said, this racist criminal justice system will not define the legacy of Trayvon Martin. We will define the legacy of Trayvon Martin. So each of them are going to talk about, in that change, how they're going to define the legacy of their loved one. So before we do that, I want to acknowledge some of the family members who lost loved ones who are not on the dais with us this morning. The family of Stephon Clark from Oakland, California, Stefante, his brother and his mother, Sequette, and his grandmother, Sequita, all the way from the Bay Area. Thank y'all for being here. Also from the Bay Area. I mean, it's hard to believe how long they've been killing us, and we have video evidence of it. But I remember Reverend Holmes, one of the first ones we saw on video ever. They made a movie about it called Futeville Station. We have the mother of Oscar Grant, who's present with us today, Wanda Grant. Okay. And will any parent who has lost a loved one unjustly, unnecessarily, and unconstitutionally, please stand so we can recognize you, because all of our children matter. Any of the parents, any of the family members? Thank you all so much. Thank you all so much for being with us. And so, talking about change and action. The change I want to see, January 6, 2021, Memphis, Tennessee. We saw captured on video, and it's terrible on so many levels. We saw 5 black police officers torture an unarmed young man who was complying and beat him to death. And Daisy, when we saw these black officers committing a crime on video, doing unethical things on video, we saw for the first time in less than 20 days, they terminated those officers, they arrested those officers, and they charged those officers. So, Kendra Meek, what we said, that is the blueprint. That's the blueprint going forward. I don't care if the officers are white officer or black officer. From now on, we got the blueprint because we can count. We can count to 20. And so those are the things we're trying to see. We want action. And so we're going to start off because she taught us a lot of how to deal with tragedy and have dignity while you're going through this. And so we're going to hear from the mother of Trayvon Benjamin Martin, Sabrina Fulton, talk about defining the legacy of Trayvon and what change she is still fighting for. Sabrina Fulton.
Good morning. I know it's a lot of people on this day, so I'm going to make mine short and sweet. But we all know what happened with Trayvon Martin, 17 years old. He had someone that was 28 years old with a loaded gun pursuing him. And he was asked not to follow him, and he still followed my son. So I want you all to know that, like I come here every year and say, Trayvon could be any one of our sons. So it's important that we not give up, even though there are some things in front of us that don't look so great right now. Just keep pushing forward. Just keep supporting one another. We have, through the Trayvon Martin Foundation, we do several events. In February, we celebrate Trayvon's birth and not his death. His birthday was February 5th, and each year we celebrate his birth. So we do what we call is a peace walk and a peace talk. It's a short distance we walk, and then at the end of the peace walk, there's a peace talk to let everybody know that they have a right to walk in peace without being followed, chased, pursued, profiled, or murdered. So we invite everybody to come out. We have a website, it's TrayvonMartinFoundation.org. You can go on that website every year in February. Rest assured, if I'm still standing and breathing, there will be something that we commemorate Trayvon's birth. We also have a fundraiser dinner that we do, and that's to raise money for the foundation so we can continue to do the work. The next event we do is one of my favorite programs. It's called Circle of Mothers. It's on the website as well. And I invite mothers from all over the United States. And what it's about is empowering other women to support each other, to stand with each other, to heal together. And we come together every year around Mother's Day. And it's a weekend that we usually do in Miami. But it's about healing. It's about letting that mother know that you are not alone. And we hug, we cry, we kiss, we laugh. We do all of those things during that weekend because we want each other to know that we are still standing united together. That's very important. Tracy also does a Circle of Fathers. It's about bringing men together and letting them know that you can be better than who you are in ways that you can improve as a father, as a son, as a husband. He does that program. We have programs where we invite young kids out, school-age kids, to let them know that what they put on Facebook and what they post is important. We talk about setting goals. We talk about gun violence. We talk about self-esteem. And lately we had to talk about suicide because our young people are committing suicide. We talk about drugs, all the things that they probably don't talk about in school, we talk about at the Trayvon Martin Foundation. So we do things all year. On Thanksgiving, we do a gift basket, and we give gift baskets away. We do toy drives every year for Christmas. But we just want people to know that we are here. Trayvon Martin Foundation is not going anywhere, and we're still standing strong. Now that was the easy part. The more hard part is, I'm from Florida, the Sunshine State. And it's hard to say Sunshine State when you have somebody that's there that's running the state that's not doing so well as when it comes to politics. And I ran for office a couple of years ago because I believe that my mind wanted to help people and wanted to put people over profit. But they wasn't ready for that yet. So I lost about 300 votes. I ran against a mayor, so I did really well. So I actually am patting myself on the back for that one. But it's hard to fight against a system that's been so wrong for so long. And so in Florida, our governor, DeSantis, I even hate to say it, who is running to be the president of the United States, has just passed a bill that says in Florida, where it is a crime area just like everywhere else, in Florida, you are able to carry a concealed weapon without a license or any training. Yeah, that law is going to go in effect this summer. And so he's giving people the right to carry weapons with no license at all. So it's going to be the Wild Wild West in Florida. And so we are constantly fighting against different types of laws like these. I'm not going to even mention our reproduction laws and the laws that's for women, which is very important to women. So I just want to end that by saying thank you for your support, and I'll continue to support you.
And one other law we're dealing with, and it's good that Reverend R.B. Holmes, the head of NAN down in Florida, is here. Yeah, I do understand also they're putting forth policies to say that we can't teach African American history in the high schools anymore. And so I would just remind you all that what the father of black history, Carter G. Woodson, said. He said, if a race has no history, if a race has no traditions that are valued and respected to be taught to the younger generations, then that race becomes a negligible thought in the world and thus become endangered of being exterminated. We cannot let them exterminate our black history, our black literature, and our black culture. Not in Florida, not in any state in America. We will fight for our children to know that their history contributed to the progress and the history of the United States of America. Sabrina got me on my soapbox. Next, we're going to hear from one of the brothers of George Floyd, who you all know was a watershed moment in America. When we all watched the video for 9 minutes and 29 seconds, where Officer Chauvin had a knee on his neck, and he said, "I can't breathe," 28 times after Eric Garner had said, "I can't breathe," 19 times. And we all watched for one of the first times in a long time that police officers, not just one, but all of them, were held guilty, guilty, guilty for murdering George Floyd. At this time, we will hear from his brother who lives here in New York City, Terrence Floyd.
Peace, kings and queens, peace, peace. First and foremost, when we talk about the legacy of my brother, I just want to pay respects to my father, George Floyd Sr., who passed away in 2002. You know, that's the beginning of the legacy right there. also, knowing my brother, you know, being transparent, it's like a cultural story, a black cultural story where it's different parents, but you still have brother, have sisters and stuff like that. So I used to speak to my brother on the phone and hear about him, and it wasn't to the year of 2016 I was able to actually lay my eyes on him and talk to him and bond with him. He came to New York, you know, and one thing I learned about my brother, he was family oriented. And to start to keep this legacy going, I'm going to do that by supporting these families and supporting my brother behind us. It doesn't matter whether you're from the father's side or the mother's side, we still family. And that's how we're going to keep it. And that's just what I'm about. I'm about family and love and unity. Thank you.
And then we got the other brother who some of you all come to know for him testifying at the United States Congress and making his testimony in court where he talked about why he doesn't wear neckties anymore. Y'all give it up for George Floyd's brother from Houston, Texas, Phalonis Floyd.
It's an honor to be here today, and just to speak with so many different families about the trouble and the violence that my brother and their sons and daughters all have went through in life. I cannot explain it, the pain. We've been trying to get this George Floyd Justice Policing Act passed. That's H.R. 1280. Yes, sir. We've been fighting since 2020. It's 2023. Times are changing. I couldn't help but talk about what's going on in Tennessee. We had 2 black Democratic members all voted out, expelled, because they stood up for gun control. Do you realize what's happening in this world today? We got to talk about this. That's the only way that we can get things accomplished. So I look for all of you because we're stronger in numbers. This is power at its finest. Black power, black excellence. People, period, who define what equality is all about. We think about the 14th Amendment, citizenship. This world has not been free for black people. White supremacy has reigned, and it continues to reign because they show you every day when they try to take your voters' rights away. Like Ms. Kerry Washington said, you can't have a drink of water while you're waiting in line. We want to support. We want to make sure everybody get out and vote. So this election coming up, I need you all to show your face. Vote your mayors in, vote your senators in, vote your congressmen in, vote the president that you want in. Your vote matters. So you all seen what happened to George Floyd. They laid him to sleep on the ground, didn't care, 12 minutes. So imagine what they would do to you. Back in the days, it was cool to see a lynching. They had popcorn. They had soft drinks. They stood out there with their kids. So think about how many people watched that video and might have did the same thing, because that was a motion cinema picture, 4K, for the world to see. We started that movement. Let's keep this fire burning. A worldwide movement. I started the Phalonis and Keita Floyd Institution for Social Change. That's PACFIX. We're turning our pain into purpose. If you all want to look out for it, it's PAKFISC.org. And I always remember this. If they can make federal laws to protect the bird, which is the bald eagle, then they can make federal laws to protect people of color. So, I'm out here, but I want to thank Ben for being with us all this time. I want to thank his staff, Silky Slim, Miss Denise Mitchell. I love y'all. Y'all take care. Clifford, everybody. Chris.
Y'all give it up for Phalonis Floyd and Terrence Floyd. One day he's going to be congressman for Lones Floyd. Doesn't he sound like a politician? Thank you for Lones for keeping the fire going. Thank you, Terrence. And we know time is running short. We're going to hear now from the Queen Mother of the Mothers of the Movement. Y'all know when her son was killed in Staten Island, New York, they tried to act like it was legal, that they did everything within policy. And I'm reminded what Martin Luther King said at the letter from the Birmingham jail. Just because they say it's legal, that don't make it right. They said that everything Hitler did to the Jews in Germany was legal. That didn't make it right. They said that slavery was legal. That didn't make it right. They said segregation was legal, but that didn't make it right. And they try to tell us how they killed Eric Garner was legal, to which we say that don't make it right. Y'all give it up for Miss Gwen Carr, the mother of Eric Garner.
Ooh, good morning, everyone. Giving honor to God, who's first in my life. Hope he is in yours too. Because without him, I would not be standing here today. I think I could have lost my mind. But you know, through his goodness and his grace, I'm here. I'm still fighting, and I'm going to continue to fight. And I got good people who fight with me and fight beside me. And just like we have all of the panel here today, we are all fighting for the same thing, going down the same road. And I remember when this horrible incident happened to my son, I didn't know what I would do. I was in a dark place at that time. But you know, I decided to turn my mourning into a movement and my sorrow into a strategy. And this is why every week I'm at the National Action Network getting guidance and listening to Reverend Al and following in what he has done and what he is doing. And this is why I was able to go and get laws changed. I said, you know, I'm going to take some advice and I'm going to, you know, take tidbits from here and there. And we went to Albany, and lo and behold, I got the anti-chokehold, the Eric Garner anti-chokehold bill passed. Yes. So, you know, it's not easy. You're going to knock on doors that they're going to not open. But sometimes you got to kick the door in, you know. And I am so proud of my city and state today that we have so many legislators that is of color. And, you know, with this power, there is so much we can do. And I am open to help do whatever it is to do. We can't just sit back and say, let's see what you're going to do. What are we going to do? What are we going to do to help them? You know, because we know they can't do it all alone. But, you know, I just said, when my son was murdered, I'm not just going to sit back. Yes, I cry. I still cry in the midnight hours sometime. But it's good to take a step back sometime and stay under the cover for a day. But then the next day, you got to get up fighting again. And that's what I do. And I just thank all of you. I thank my family. I thank my friends. I thank those who are fighting with me, that you have stood behind me and you still stand behind me, and we're going to get more laws changed. We're going to vote like we're supposed to vote, because I tell you, if you don't vote, don't complain. You know. So I just want to say to you again, God bless you and God stand with me. We are the ERIC Initiative Foundation. That's the name of our foundation. ERIC, which is my son's name, which stands for Eliminating Racism and Inequality Collectively. That's what it's saying. Okay? So, thank you all so much.
Ms. Gwen. Thank you, Gwen Carr, New York City. Next, we think about Trayvon and people chasing our children, especially our young black boys. We didn't have Trayvon on video, but we had Ahmaud Arbery on video. The lynch mob chased him and shot him twice with a shotgun. And even though they had visual evidence from day one, they still let the members of the lynch mob go home and sleep in their beds for 72 days. But it was Ahmaud's mother, Wanda Cooper, and his father, Marcus Arbery. They just would not let them sweep it under the rug. And they were able to achieve something that few black people in America ever see. George Floyd family may be the only other family I have ever seen accomplish this. And that is get convictions for the murders of her child on the state level. And y'all remember how she wouldn't quit until she got convictions on the federal level too. Y'all give it up for Wanda Cooper, the mother of Ahmaud Arbery.
Well, good morning. Thank you all for having me. As we all know, I lost Ahmaud back on February 23rd, 2020. My son Ahmaud simply started his laundry and he decided to go out on a Sunday morning run. With that run, my son did not return. Being shared earlier, the video was shared back on May 3rd of 2020, and we all stood for justice for Ahmaud. With that being said, we got convictions on the state and federal levels. In the state of Georgia, they repealed the citizens arrest law. So white people cannot get in their trucks and chase down a black boy who's running. That law no longer exists. We also, in the state of Georgia, implemented the hate crime law. So white people could not get in their trucks and chase down a black boy because they hated him. So those were huge changes in the state of Georgia. I want to be quite honest with you guys. When I lost Ahmaud, I lost myself. I went from being a mother of 3 to a mother of 2 and 1 deceased. I had to take some time to redefine who I was as a woman. After redefining myself, I found that I was a fighter. You were always a go-getter. And sitting in that courtroom for those 5 weeks actually stripped me of who I knew I was. But in the midst of that, I said, Wanda, are you just going to sit down, or are you going to implement more changes? I then went into some deep thoughts and what other changes can you take, Wanda? And I said to myself, Ahmaud is gone, but it's very important that his legacy lives forever. So I started the Ahmaud Arbery Foundation, which will be resources for black boys who has challenges in mental and physical wellness. Our mission simply is to create safe places for black boys, whether it's in education, whether it's in mental health, or whether it's in physical wellness. We're honoring our first 5K run in Atlanta, Georgia on May 6th. It's our first, and actually Ahmad would have turned 29 on May 8th. So the timing was great. Also, it's painful, but it was great timing. I'm going to ask you all to join us in that run. Keep us in prayers. And if you want to learn more about what we're doing, you can also visit our newly designed website at the AhmaudArbyFoundation.org. Thank you so much. And also, I want to say thank you for supporting my family and I for the justice for Ahmaud. Thank you.
Thank you, Wanda Cooper. And she was nervous, but she did great, didn't she? Y'all saw his whole hand. She says she's so nervous. Her palms were sweaty. But girl, you did your thing, Wanda. Thank you. You know, after Breonna Taylor was killed in Louisville, Kentucky, because of unnecessary, unjustified, unconstitutional, and illegal no-knock warrant in violation of her constitutional Fourth Amendment rights against unlawful search and seizure when they busted in her door at 1 in the morning and mutilated her body with 8 bullets while she was practically naked. We all got America to say her name. We were under the impression and we thought that they wouldn't be kicking in black people's doors in the wee hours of the morning anymore. But yet again, the struggle continues because less than 2 years after Breonna, Amir Locke, a good brother, sleeping on the couch after driving all day doing DoorDash, trying to do the right things, the Minneapolis, Philonis and Terrence, the Minneapolis Police Department, again, kicked in the front door, executing a no-knock warrant in the wee hours of the morning. And don't take Ben Crump's word for it. Go look at the video for yourself. You don't even know if he realized what was going on. He was waking up and the officer shot first and asked questions later. And he was a lawful gun owner. Now, why did that? They keep talking about Second Amendment rights, but when black people have our guns and we have them lawfully under the Second Amendment, they act like it don't apply to us. Well, it do apply to us, and that's why we're going to get justice for Amir Locke. And we have his father, Andre Locke, his mother, Karen Wells. They are fighting, and we cannot forget that when they kill us in these no-knock warrants, we got to get justice too. Y'all give it up for Andre Locke, Minneapolis, Minnesota.
As I grab the mic. Hello. It is something else to be here. I've always watched this from afar. And now I stand here with each of these families and all of you that we all have something in common. It was last Tuesday that we marked the death of Martin Luther King Jr. during the sanitation workers' strike in Memphis. April the 4th, 1968, many workers wore signs that read, "I am a man." I am a man. The fight for equality, dignity, and respect. Here, 55 years later, we're still doing the same thing. And now we're doing it for our sons. I am Andre Locke, the father of Amir Locke. I am Andre Locke, Buddy McLean, Lil Buddy McLean, hip-hop artist, making my way. Thankful to each of those that paved the way for me for hip-hop. Nationally, I give it up for Johnny Nunez, celebrity photographer who's here today, who helped me with my career, who helped me get to this point. I'm absolutely thankful to be here. My son, Amir Locke, mattered. He was 22 years old, just laying the groundwork for his life, when his life was suddenly taken from him. My son, February the 2nd, 2:22, in the wee hour mornings, after working a hard night from doing DoorDash, visiting with his relatives, my son was awoken by a kick on the couch that startled him, that woke him up, and he was under a blanket laying down on his stomach like most 22-year-olds do. They lay down on their stomachs with the cover over their heads, lawfully in possession of a firearm. My son reached for that weapon, did not point that weapon at anyone, in the direction of the Minneapolis SWAT team that barbarically walked into that unit and killed my son. I'm a representation of the Evans families, the Locke families, and here for his mother, Karen Wells. I stand in the gaps for each of us that we get rid of no-knock warrants. No-knock warrants in each of our communities. I appreciate that. Thank you. No-knock warrants in our communities disproportionately affect black and brown people. You don't see them going in the suburbs kicking the white folks' door. And I live in the suburbs now. I'm going to tell you, it is something else to know that other people are not going through the same thing equally that we're going through. It is so unfortunate to see that we continue to go through the same things continuously. Who wanted to be a part, no disrespect to anyone here, but who wanted to be a part of this fraternity? None of us. None of us. So, Congresswoman Ilhan Omar has introduced the bill, the Amir Locke Deadly No-Knock Act, to be passed in federal legislation. We're looking to do that. In Minneapolis, there's history with laying his legacy. There's history that's being done. In Minneapolis, it finally passed the Finance Committee, Safety Committee, and the Judiciary Committee. Now it's in the Senate for the no-knock warrant in Minneapolis. That way we get rid of the no-knock warrants in Minneapolis. I'll close with this. And I have to close with this.
Okay.
Despite, and I say this, despite these tears rolling down my eyes continuously, despite not being able to do more for my son in those moments, black men in this country at the hands of police are continuing to die. But I am still a man.
Amen. Amen. I am a man. Amen. Thank you, Andre. And I know he was nervous too first time, but he did amazing. Give him another round of applause. And the final speakers from the dais, and they're a little nervous too, and it's still fresh. So I thank Sabrina and Miss Gwen for trying to comfort and counsel Tyre's mother, Rovine. And as I bring them up, we're going to have a press conference a little later. Maybe the other families could stand with them, because even though they're still grieving, Sabrina and Wanda, they're doing like you all have done. They're fighting, and they're going to, for the first time, get a reaction to the Memphis City Council last night passing the Tyre Nichols law. And that law says that there will never be another Scorpion unit or any other unit, squat unit, that will violate the constitutional rights of black citizens or any citizen Number two, that there will be no more pretextual stops. Y'all know driving while black. That's what happened to Tyre. And the third thing, and I know this is part of the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act now in the new bill that's going before the U.S. Congress, and that is police officers who see their fellow officers brutalizing black people or any other people have a duty to intervene. Y'all give a big round of applause for the parents of Tyre Nichols, Rovon Wells, and Rodney Wells.
Good morning. I'm Rovon Wells, the mother of Tyre Nichols. My son was brutally beaten by the Memphis Police Department on January 7th, 2023. He was on his way home for watching the sunsets. He liked to go to a park that we have there and watch the sunsets as much as possible. Tyre was stopped. He was beaten. Less than 800 feet from my home. I even heard, I didn't watch the video, but I heard he called my name 3 times, and I wasn't there. People ask me, how do I keep going? And I tell them 2 things. The power of prayer that I get from each and every one of you. And the fact that I truly believe that my son was here on a mission from God. And that his assignment was completed on January 7th, 2023. Tyre was 29 years old. He had a son that was 5 that will never see his dad again. I'm still trying to wrap my head around all this. I'm sorry. But this is still new. And I'm still trying to understand all of this. Tyre was one of 4 children. He was my baby. He was my baby. And I still can't understand how all this is happening. I just... As being said, we've gotten a lot of things accomplished in Memphis. They just passed the law yesterday. And we're going to continue to fight and make sure that this doesn't happen to another Tyre or Ahmaud Arbery or Trayvon Martin or George Floyd. It's just too many of our black men being killed for nothing. And no one is giving us answers why. You don't see our white brothers and sisters being brutally beaten.
No, you don't.
And I'm not understanding why is it that black men can't even go home. My son was just trying to go home.
Amen.
So we need everyone's help to try to get these laws passed. And just as they said, we need to vote and get those people in office that's going to hear us, because we need some change in this life, in this world. Thank you.
Amen.
Hi, my name is Rodney Wells, Tyre Nichols' stepfather. I just wanted to say thanks to the host, Mr. Al Sharpton, for putting this on. I want to thank our attorney, Mr. Ben Crump. And I want to thank Kareem Ali, who's been with us by our side since the beginning. We're going to keep this short and sweet because we're very fresh at this. This is very new. We're trying to get foundation started, but like I said, this is very new and very fresh. I appreciate the support. We will be back here every year. And thank everybody for allowing us to speak.
Let me say, as I said when we started the panel, we shifted now into a press conference because I think that you ought to know, and our Attorney General Crump will break it down, that there has now been established in the city of Memphis a Tyre Nichols law. No longer, because of this family, because of Attorney Crump, will there be allowed to have the Scorpion unit that was responsible for the death of Tyre. Amen. No longer will they have stops for no cause, traveling while black because of Tyre. And as we see his mother standing here weeping, that will never bring back her son. But her son has saved the lives of other sons and other daughters. Because of their strength, the law has changed in Memphis. The Tyre Nichols law is law in Memphis, Tennessee. Amen. Amen. Attorney Crump, break it down.
Yes, sir. Reverend Al, thank you again for, it was when they arrested the killer of Trayvon. It was during the National Action Network convention, and a lot of historic things happened at the National Action Network convention, and this is a historic moment. I mean, it happened yesterday. They got here last night, so they couldn't even give their reaction. So we got a dozen requests from national media want to hear from Tyre's family how they feel about the new Tyre Nichols law going into effect, Reverend Al. And it's kind of deep because as they shared with me, and if other family members would stand and join them here, because they're going to need people standing with them. Philonis, Wanda, if y'all will stand with Reverend Al and us behind them, and we're going to try to have this press conference. And it's something that Reverend Al and I do a lot, try to make the arguments in the court of public opinion. As I talked to Rovon and Rodney and Kareem Ali, my investigator, after the law passed, they said it was a good first step for the city of Memphis, but now we got to pass it in the state of Tennessee, and then we got to bring it and have it passed as part of the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. But Reverend Al, it's kind of crazy what's going on in Tennessee right now, because before they can get it to the next level to have the Tyre Nichols law put up before the Tennessee House of Representatives, they got to get their elected state representative, Justin Pearson, back in the legislature. So this fight is multi-leveled, and it's going to take them fighting in Tennessee, but it's going to take all of you, National Action Network, fighting with them to help make sure our voices are heard. Reverend Al, I have never heard never in my life heard how they can disenfranchise the will of black voters because of some violation of decorum. If that ain't the pot calling the kettle black. The fact that the punishment doesn't fit the alleged violation, it is equivalent in my mind, Reverend and Rodney, for them giving you a life sentence for you in your apartment playing loud music, and it's a noise ordinance. The police come and literally give you a life sentence because they said you were talking too loud in your apartment. That's what they're doing in Tennessee. They said these two young, talented, skillful black state legislatures were talking too loud, and for that there, we're going to give you expulsion forever from the Tennessee State House. And that's why we have to fight, because that young man was the representative from the district from which Tyre Nichols lived. And that's why we have to fight. And Reverend, now briefly we will have Reverend and Rodney say how they feel about the new law. I think Ms. Reverend was doing so. And then after that, Reverend Al, you and I, we would take questions, if the media has any, about the Tyre Nichols law. Y'all show your love again for Reverend Wells and Rodney Wells.
As Ben just mentioned, the Tyre Nichols law passed yesterday. We were here in New York when it passed, so we haven't had a chance to just really read everything. But we do find that this is a great step in the right direction. Well, we need to put this on the state level as well as the federal level to make sure that this doesn't happen to no other child again. So as we read and we get more information, we'll be more than happy to give our views on what was put into law. Thank you.
I just want to reiterate what my wife just said, that we have to take this on a national, federal, and state level. This is just the beginning. This fight has just begun.
Amen.
And it's not going to end no time soon.
Amen.
We are here to make changes in federal laws. We are here to fight for every man and woman on this panel.
Amen.
And the ones that are not on this panel.
Amen.
So as my wife said, we just got in town. We did not, was able to find out about this until this morning. So there's a lot that we have to learn about it before we can actually speak on it. But we are happy that it happened.
Amen.
Thank you.
Let me say this for the members of the press, that as the family digests this law in Memphis, and as Attorney Crump has broken down, we want to not see it limited to Memphis. It ought to be a Tennessee state law, and it ought to be part of the George Floyd Justice and Police Act federal. One of the things that is important is that when the mother and father of Tyre Nichols spoke to the president, they kept saying what we need is the George Floyd Act passed. And what I love about them is even given the honor of being invited to the State of the Union address, something we've never seen in history, and being pointed out by the president in the address, which is down in history. This mother and this father said, we're honored, but we want to see the George Floyd justice enacted. They never got off the point. And let me say this, we want to see this made state law in Tennessee, and we want to see Justin Pearson and Justin Jones be able to vote to make it law. When we were in Memphis to join this family and help her mourn and help him mourn, don't forget Tyrese used to work with his father. They used to come home for lunch, go back to work. This wasn't no, absent thing. This was real family. And so it hurts them a lot because he was present there. They were part of his life. He was part of their life. And now they got to raise his son. But I can say that when they expelled Justin Pearson and Justin Jones, I recognized Pearson because he was around with us in Memphis for the funeral, for the Mason Temple rally. He didn't just start to be an activist just now. He's a young man, but he's got a background, and y'all put him back in the state legislature when you vote today. Only reason we're not there is because we have the convention, but let folk know all over the nation that we want them to be able to vote for this.
They're voting today.
They're voting this afternoon. Yeah. The Shelby County City Council votes today. Yes, Monday they voted back in Justin Jones in Nashville, and Justin's been on the show with me. We must do what is right. We'll take some press questions. Press, don't make yourself a reporter. All right, we don't have any calls. All right, thank you very much. We're going to let the families go out. We're going to bring in our next. Let me tell you what's going to happen the rest of the day. We're going to hear from several of the cabinet members, and we're going to hear from some of our electeds, and then give them a hand. I want you to listen carefully because we wanted some of the cabinet members to speak in the area. I want to know the policies in veteran affairs. I want to know what we're doing with transportation when I want it addressed that there are roadway disparities. Do you know that more blacks die on the road than others in this country? Well, that needs to be addressed. So the Secretary of Transportation is here. So we're going to hear from all of them. And then this afternoon, 2 o'clock, Robert Smith, arguably the wealthiest black man in America today. He's a billionaire. He paid off that student debt for that one semester of Morehouse. And he's going to chair our panel on asset management and black wealth at 2 o'clock. So a lot's coming. I'm going to walk Robert Smith in. He might drop a bag or something on the way down the hall. Just in case, just in case. And y'all know y'all couldn't see all of this for free nowhere else in the world. Are we ready? Somebody telling me who's ready. One of the things of concern has been our veterans. Nothing is worse than to fight for a nation that does not treat you properly with regard and respect when your service is over. And this is something that we've talked to this administration about and this president about. And this secretary has shown a real commitment in dealing with what is fair for our veterans. And I said that we wanted to communicate that to our people. He said, no, let me come and speak on the record and say ourselves what we're doing and why we're doing it and what you can follow up and hold us accountable for. It is an honor to welcome the National Action Network's convention, the Secretary himself of the United States Department of Veteran Affairs, the Honorable Dennis McDonald.
Good, I forget what it is. Good morning still, I guess, everybody. Rev, thank you for that very generous introduction. And I have to say, Happy Easter to you. More importantly, thanks for your decades of courageous service in the fight for civil rights. And for over 30 years leading the National Action Network. Let me also acknowledge Reverend Dr. Franklin Richardson, the chairman of the network's National Board of Directors. He answered the call to the ministry when he was just 18 years old, showing us how surrendering to something greater than ourselves is the first step in the long and righteous struggle for social justice and community empowerment. So, Mr. Chairman, Rev. Franklin, thank you. Thank you for your example, your deep devotion to justice, to decency, and equal opportunity. There are so many others who have worked tirelessly behind the scenes to make this amazing event a reality. Ebony Riley and her team, as well as all the non-chapter leaders and members here today. At the Department of VA, we're privileged and honored to serve all of America's veterans, including the many National Action Network members who are veterans. So I thank all of you for your selfless service to the country, for taking an oath to protect the rights and freedoms of so many of us, only to have to fight for your own rights and freedoms right here at home. And thank you for your continued service to the nation through your unyielding advocacy and demand for civil rights, for human rights. To all vets, their family members, caregivers, survivors in the audience, please make sure you get with our VA representative. Well, he's here today all day. We'll have a table tomorrow and Friday to make sure that you talk with our VA claims experts. They are here to help you with any questions that you have on your VA benefits. Now, 2 weeks ago, we celebrated the Vietnam War Veterans Day to remember each vet who served in that long war, to honor their courage, their selfless sacrifice, and their enormous sacrifices that they and their families made. One of those vets is Colonel Paris Davis. Colonel Davis began his career as an Army officer soon after the military was desegregated. He graduated from the Army's elite airborne and Ranger schools, became a Green Beret, one of the first black Army Special Forces officers in American history. On June 18, 1965, then Captain Davis found himself in the thick of a quickly deteriorating early morning mission in Vietnam. Outgunned 3-1, with all of his men injured and several missing, Captain Davis was ordered to retreat, ordered to leave those men behind. Captain Davis later recalled that he said, quote, "Some words over the radio I don't care to repeat. I did do a little swearing and disobeyed the order to retreat twice in order to save his soldiers. Over the course of the day-long fight, Captain Davis was wounded 8 times, including gunshots in the arms and legs. For nearly 20 hours, he rushed across open ground to get his wounded troops, fought off wave after wave of attacks, at times in hand-to-hand combat, and carried wounded teammates hundreds of yards across muddy rice fields to safety. That day, Captain Davis repeatedly risked his life to single-handedly save his fellow American soldiers. And he saved every single one of them. Now, not long after the fight, Captain Davis was nominated for the highest military decoration, the Medal of Honor. Somehow, the Army lost the nomination. Frustrated, his commanders resubmitted it. Somehow, the Army lost it. Again. 20 years later, by then, Colonel Paris Davis retired. Like so many vets, he may have retired from the military, but he didn't retire from serving. Colonel Davis continued to serve his community. He founded the Metro Herald, a newspaper in Alexandria, Virginia, that reported stories about the accomplishments of black residents and local civil rights issues. And for much of the past 60 years, Colonel Davis's teammates have pushed for justice, insisting he be recognized for his valor that day, for saving their lives. At long last, a few weeks ago, that arc of the moral universe bent a little further toward justice when President Biden presented Colonel Paris Davis the Medal of Honor he had earned all those years ago. President Biden said the occasion may have been his most consequential day in office. He told Colonel Davis, "You are everything this medal means. You're everything our nation is at our best." At VA, we are so honored to serve heroic veterans like Colonel Davis and the other vets in the audience. Because when someone like Colonel Davis, veterans like so many of you, sign up to serve our country in the military, we make you a promise. If you take care of us, we'll take care of you when you come home. Now, our country as a whole makes that promise. At VA, it's our job to keep that promise. Now, while our veterans were out fighting for us over the past 50 years, many of them breathing toxic fumes from Agent Orange, or in Iraq and Afghanistan from burn pits and other sources, and months or years later, they developed conditions that followed them home from war, that impacted their lives, in some cases, took their lives, long after the guns had fallen silent. It's our job as a nation to provide those vets, their families, and their survivors with benefits and care for those conditions. That's the promise, and that's exactly what we're doing. This past August, President Biden signed into legislation the bill that Senator Gillibrand, who you're about to hear from, wrote, that recognizes new presumptives of service connection for more than 20 health conditions related to toxic exposures, including exposures like Agent Orange, burn pits, and more. This new law will ensure vets who live with those conditions get the care and benefits they earned, and it's empowered VA to deliver the care that millions of toxic exposed veterans need and the benefits that they and their survivors deserve, including many of you here today. And you might not even know it. This can end up being one of the biggest expansions of veteran benefits in history. It can end up being. But it's going to be dependent on us. It's going to deliver care and benefits to millions of veterans and their survivors, bring generations of new vets into VA care, and increase their health care benefits of many, many more. Let me give you one quick example of what I mean. One Vietnam vet decided to resubmit his claim for VA benefits 54 years after he was originally denied his initial claim for high blood pressure and other conditions. Well, thanks to Senator Gillibrand, hypertension is a newly presumptive condition for Vietnam vets, meaning if you have it, it's covered. In February, he was granted service connection for his claim. He and his wife were relieved. They were impressed by the timely outcome and the level of personal service they received from their claims representative. Most importantly, he and his wife expressed how meaningful it was to know that his condition is service-connected. They finally felt seen. They finally felt appreciated. They said that it gave him peace of mind to know after 54 years that the injuries he suffered, both visible and invisible, were connected to his courageous service and sacrifices for this country on behalf of all of us. It's so simple, but it's so important, so profound. When vets and their families get that letter from VA granting service connection for their injuries, that's the United States saying to them, we believe you and we thank you. Now that's keeping the promise. Let me make a finer point here. The force that fought for us in Vietnam and the force that fought for us over those 30 years of war from 1991 to 2021 in Kuwait, in Iraq, in Afghanistan, Somalia, Yemen, Uzbekistan, Syria, we're not just the finest and strongest fighting forces on the face of the planet, in the history of the planet. They were also the most diverse. Now, I've not read this in a study, and I know that black and women veterans have served in every American conflict going back to the Revolutionary War. But I also know that the force that fought in Vietnam and fought in Central Command counted among it more black and more women service members than ever before. So I see this new law as an opportunity for VA to try to set a new relationship with vets, families, caregivers, and survivors of these wars. I see it as an invitation to build a new relationship with VA, an invitation